So we were discussing about the collections. Um, we started with having interfaces, classes, and then we first started with a list. We took an example on the list. We'll come back to my episode on Java collections. In my first two episodes, I basically discussed what is collections. But I did omit one of them. My apologies, but that's very important that there is something known as maps, right? Map is also an interface, and sorted map is an interface. And these are the concrete classes: hash map, hash table, linked hash map, tree map. But we will deal with those later. First, we'll start with this one. So we took an example which I discussed was about list, and we did a very simple thing in the list is that we just had a first concrete class of array list, and then we filled elements of the array list, and then we talked a bit about Java is strongly typed language. I just can't say C is equal to 0. I have to give a type, right? There are compilers which understand if you use C is equal to 0, they know what type of variable to store it in. If you give 0.3, they know what type of variable to store it in. You need not tell the compilers, but for Java, you have to do that. That's why we said that uh, we have to specify, since Java is strongly typed language, we have to, whenever we are storing any values, we have to mention about the type. So this is a concrete collections class array list. So in this, I'm going to store a set of strings. That's why on the left hand side I have the type, and on the right hand side, you know, on the left hand side and the right side, I give the types, what type it is. And then I use a new keyword because you have to instantiate a class into an object. That's why new keyword is used. Let's come to another example where I told that instead of using Arraylist, you can use list, right? And we also discussed why we can use a list, because list is an interface and Arraylist is inheriting or implementing list. That's why we can use this way, where interface is just referencing the object. That is the purpose. Now further we have to discuss, we made this work, but the question is, why are we referencing an interface? Why are we using interface to reference an object? What is the purpose? So say for example now, for the list today I have an array list. What if I want to put something in my linked list? That means uh, if I want to put something in my linked list, I can still use the same statement, right? Uh, List is equal to my list. Here. And then I'll say this is my list one. Then I'll say this as not array list. This I'll say is as linked list. Okay. Now it is giving underlining. What is this? I don't know. So it is giving me a suggestion. Let's see. So it is saying import linked list. I imported. Now let's use the same thing, right? Let's add something to this linked list. So I am adding the names here. First name what I'm going to add is, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to add here as Sunil. And now this has been possible for me. Again, I'm using list here, right? Particularly in linked list. Why is that? What's the advantage? Well, here's the advantage here, what I'm talking about. I have prepared a method here as print third element list. Now, if I have to pass an argument to this, I want to print the first element of an array list or a linked list. What would I do if I want to do that? I would simply say that, I want array list, right? So I would say my type is of array list. Let's not have the string for the time. It's really not needed. Let's declare like this. It's still going to work. And I'm going to say I want array list as my argument here. EL, right? Now let's execute this program. Let's see what's the output. What do you expect? There you go. Yes, you are right. It has to print Anil, right? If I use the L get 0, right? But I need to call this, so let me call this print element. I'm going to remove the system dot ln print element. I'm going to pass, the list what I gave. So I've written a method, to print the first element of the list. Okay. So it's giving me error. What it says, change method to print list. No, I don't want. So for timing, I'd say public void static. Why I say this as static? Because I need not instantiate this, right? Now what is this telling me now? I'm going to set a return type as void, right? What else is there? So what does this say? Okay, it is saying that I cannot pass this as an array list, right? So I am going to do the correction. Array list my list, right? And then now I'm going to call this method. So this method is going to print the third element, right? I remove the system dot out. Let's see what happens. Okay, it printed Anil. Now what I want to use, I want to have a linked list and I want to use this one to pass. I will have to write a separate method, right? Because this is going to take only array list. It's not going to take linked list, right? Can I try that? Let's see. Print. I will say this is linked list. When I say this is linked list and I pass this as my list of modules, so it says that the method print third element list is type basic, is not applicable for arguments linked list, right? That means I need to write another method here. Another method which takes linked list. Right? and I would say this has element 1, right? And now I have a method which takes linked list, and I can print the element, right? Now I'm saying print element, so I had to write another method for this. I wrote a method. Now see, this method is so tightly coupled, the type argument what it can receive, right? I have to write a separate method for array list and one more method for linked list. Let's see whether it runs. Okay, it printed Anil and it's now let's see what magic we can create by using interfaces. So instead of array list, I will use this as list. Okay, I'll use this also as list. Okay, now instead of writing two methods, I can just write one method. I can take this out. Okay, and then I can give this as, instead of array list, I can use this, right? So I had done two things. One is I have removed the tight coupling which this method had for a concrete class. And then I can pass any collection. I can pass linked list or a list, right, to this method, to print the first element. Let's see if it works. See, I'm using the same method here, right? Yes, it worked. This is the magic of referencing to the objects by interfaces. So all I am doing here is I'm able to pass details of a linked list class or a array list class because I'm referencing them using interface, and both are implementing same interfaces. So this is what called in a world of loose coupling. That means tomorrow if I add another class, another list, I can still use this method. I'm reusing this method. Reason is that I'm coding to interfaces. So coding to interfaces gives you the advantage of extending, reusing the code. So that is the advantage what we have when we start using interfaces. Coming back to our example, we achieved something here. What we achieved is something known as abstraction, right? Uh, where we are using an interface, which is an abstract, and we separated, we did a loose coupling. So decoupling we separated contract and its implementation. What do I mean by contract and its implementation? So we have a concrete class here, Arraylist, which is implementing list. right? Event here, then what we are seeing is we are seeing this API, which is also called as a contract. What simply it means that it promises you that you give certain inputs, then you get certain defined outputs. But Arraylist is an implemented concrete class, but it is defining a contract. It is also implementing a list. So in this, what we did is we did not use Arraylist directly, right, to the method. We passed list. That is what we are doing here. We did not pass Arraylist to this method. Passed list to this method. Or linked list also we passed list to this method. That means we separated. We are able to clearly see a separation between implementation and the contract. I just passed. I have loosely decoupled my this class, whatever I built, basic Arraylist 3. It is not heavily dependent on the concrete class of collections when it comes to this method of printing the first element, right? So that is the first advantage we achieved. That is, when we use interfaces, it allows us to decouple between contract and specification. And it allows declaring contract between caller and callee, right? The second advantage is interchangeability, right? This method I can use for some other linked list also. I'm able to interchange easily from a linked list to array list because I'm using interface. This is the second advantage what you see. The third advantage what you see is testability. That means it helps me for a JUnit test. We will not talk in detail about JUnit test right now, but all I got to say is that when you test this, I am able to inject here any class. This increases, my chances of testing this one. So I increase my testability, my interchangeability, I increased, allowed decoupling, and due to which I am able to reuse this method for a lot of classes. See what an advantage just referencing to an interface. How many advantages I got. So this is about what I told before is that I will explain why using interfaces gives an advantage, which simply means that people talk of a very good example when it comes to interfaces. And let's say, in a very simple real world, we have a panel. Let's call this as uh, temperature display. And let's try better. temperature display. Now, the thing is that, temperature display panel, let's call this a panel. It's indicating what is the temperature outside. Now, here, what I am doing is, this is the machinery inside to sense the temperature. With the temperature sensor XYZ. Now what I'm going to do is I have to attach this temperature display panel to this machinery. That is, I am coupling the temperature display panel to this machinery. So we call this as what? This is my coupling. Right? So this is my coupling. How do you actually couple this one? Temperature indicator to this one. This is sensor. The sensor gives you an output. Say you're coupling this, you have some kind of, um, a, a plug here. Let's drop it right. So you have a coupler here. Um, this is your coupler. And then you run wires here. And then this is your temperature display panel. Just saying like, 31 degrees centigrade. So this is what? This is implementation. Implementation what? Implementation of how to display the temperature. And this is the temperature panel. This is coupled to this. Say this is manufactured by XYZ company. And this is manufactured by ABC. And in my factory, what I do is that I assemble this and then sell this in the market. This whole piece, right? The whole piece, I am selling this in the market. So far, so good. Now, tomorrow, what happens is to keep up the competition, I decide this is old technology. I want something new. So I'll say PQR, another implementation has come here. And PQR PQR has got more advanced sensors. and I want this one, to uh, couple to the display panel. Now, when I made the coupling, if I made this coupling very specific to this XYZ for this temperature panel, then to couple with this one, again, I have to redesign my coupling, correct? What does this mean? Oh, I have to redesign it. This, which is called as tight coupling. That means if the implementation changes, then I have to, change my coupling. But let's come back to our example now. Imagine this is a temperature indicator. Since I coupled this using a loose coupling, that is, I used interfaces, I was able to change, I was able to use this for a linked list as well as Arraylist. Say Arraylist is something like old technology, right? And linked list may be new technology. I was able to interface. That is the advantage, of using interfaces. I hope you got this. If you like the video, please hit a like button and subscribe this channel. Thank you.